Welcome to Chilling Whisperscape. Hotels. They're supposed to be a place of comfort and rest, right? A cozy room, warm lights, and the promise of a peaceful night's sleep. But what if you check into a room with a dark past? A room where someone never checked out? I've always been a logical person. I never believed in ghosts or the paranormal. Until that night. What I experienced in room 313 of the old Willow Inn still haunts me to this day. And trust me, after hearing this story, you might think twice before staying in a hotel alone. But before we dive into the chilling events of that night, if you love hearing true horror stories that will send shivers down your spine, make sure to subscribe to Chilling Whisperscape. Let's uncover the secrets hidden behind closed doors. Sound effect. Door creaking open, followed by a distant whisper. Now, let's begin. Hotels. They're supposed to be a place of comfort and rest, right? A cozy room, warm lights, and the promise of a peaceful night's sleep. But what if you check into a room with a dark past? A room where someone never checked out? I've always been a logical person. I never believed in ghosts or the paranormal until that night. What I experienced in room 313 of the old Willow Inn still haunts me to this day. And trust me, after hearing this story, you might think twice before staying in a hotel alone. But before we dive into the chilling events of that night, if you love hearing true horror stories that will send shivers down your spine, make sure to subscribe to Chilling Whisperscape. Let's uncover the secrets hidden behind closed doors. Sound effect. Door creaking open, followed by a distant whisper. Now, let's begin. It was a cold, rainy evening. I had just finished a long business meeting in a small town I had never visited before. Tired and exhausted, I checked into a nearby hotel, the only one I could find that late at night. The place seemed off. The lobby was dimly lit, and the receptionist barely made eye contact as he handed me the key. Room 313, he said without a smile or even a word of welcome. I shrugged it off. I was too tired to care. Grabbing my luggage, I headed for the elevator. The ride up was strangely silent, the kind of silence that feels heavy like something's watching you. When I reached the third floor, I noticed how deserted it was. The corridor stretched endlessly with identical doors on both sides. There was a strange chill in the air, and for some reason the lights flickered faintly. I found room 313 at the far end of the hallway. As I unlocked the door, a strange feeling crept over me, a sense of dread, like I was stepping into a place I didn't belong, but I brushed it off. I was just tired, I told myself. The room was fairly ordinary, a bed, a desk, a TV, but something didn't feel right. The air felt thick, like the walls were holding on to secrets from the past. As I unpacked my things, I noticed an old painting hanging on the wall. It showed a woman in a black dress standing by a window, her back turned to the viewer. There was something unsettling about it, as if she was hiding something. I decided to ignore it and get some sleep. But as I turned off the lights and settled into bed, I heard it for the first time. Soft knocking sound. A faint knock. At first I thought it was from another room, but then it happened again. Knock, knock. It wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from inside the room. If you want more terrifying stories like this, make sure to subscribe to Chilling Whisperscape. You never know when you'll need company on sleepless nights. Sound effect. A distant whispery voice saying, "Welcome to room 313. The knocking continued. Soft but persistent. Knock, knock, knock. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. Maybe it's just the wind, I thought. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. The sound was too deliberate, too human. I got up and turned on the lights. The room was silent now, as if nothing had happened. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. That's when I noticed it. The painting on the wall. The woman in the black dress. She was no longer standing by the window. She was facing me. I froze. My mind raced to find a logical explanation, but there wasn't one. I could feel my breath quickening, my palms sweating. I must be imagining things, I whispered to myself. Trying to calm down, I decided to check the bathroom. Maybe the sound had come from there. As I approached the bathroom door, I noticed something strange. The mirror was fogged up, as if someone had just taken a shower, but I hadn't used the bathroom. Slowly, I wiped the mirror with my hand. For a moment, everything seemed normal, until I saw it. In the reflection, there was a shadowy figure standing behind me. I spun around, but no one was there. The room was empty, but in the mirror, the figure remained, a tall, dark silhouette, unmoving, watching me. I backed away, heart racing. The air felt colder, heavier. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. That's when I heard it again. A whisper. Soft whisper. You're not alone. Panicking, I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing the empty room. But the whispering didn't stop. It was coming from the walls, from the ceiling, from inside my head. Just then, the knocking started again. Knock, knock, knock. But this time it was coming from the closet. Before I continue, if you're enjoying this spine-chilling story, make sure to subscribe to Chilling Whisperscape for more real horror stories that will keep you up at night. Now, let's see what's behind that closet door. Sound effect. Door creaking open, followed by a chilling gasp. I stood frozen, staring at the closet door. The knocking had stopped, but the silence was worse. It felt like something, or someone, was waiting for me to open it. With shaky hands, I stepped closer. The air felt colder with every step, and my flashlight flickered as I reached for the handle. Whisper, come closer. I yanked the closet door open. Nothing. The closet was empty. Just a few old hangers swaying gently, creaking with each movement. I let out a nervous laugh, relieved for a moment. Maybe I was imagining things. But then, I heard it again. A soft, rhythmic sound. Breathing. It was coming from inside the room. Slowly, I turned around, and there she was, the woman from the painting. Standing by the window, her black dress flowing as if caught in a breeze that didn't exist. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow, staring directly at me. "What do you want?" I whispered, my voice trembling. She didn't answer. Instead, she lifted her hand and pointed toward the mirror. I followed her gaze, dreading what I would see. In the mirror, I wasn't alone. There were more figures, shadowy, faceless, all standing behind me, watching. Suddenly, the woman's voice echoed through the room. Whisper, "You can't leave." The door slammed shut and the lights went out completely. Panic set in as I ran to the door, desperately pulling at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Behind me, the whispers grew louder, overlapping, filling the room with an eerie chant. Whisper, "Stay, stay, stay." I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. My flashlight flickered back on for a brief second, and in that moment, I saw their faces, all of them, twisted, hollow-eyed, reaching for me. If you're still listening, I hope you never find yourself in a place like this, and if you do, don't open the closet. If you haven't already, subscribe to Chilling Whisperscape for more stories like this, because sometimes the scariest things are the ones you never see coming. Sound effect, door slamming shut, and a woman's distant laughter fading into silence. The next thing I remember was waking up on the hotel lobby floor. The receptionist was standing over me, shaking his head. "You're lucky," he said quietly. "Most people don't make it out of room 313. Confused and terrified, I grabbed my things and left without asking any questions. But before I walked out, I glanced back at the old painting hanging in the lobby. It was her, the woman in the black dress. This time, she wasn't facing the window. She was smiling directly at me. I never never went back to that hotel. But even now, I can't escape that feeling that someone or something followed me home. Sometimes late at night, I hear the same knocking. Knock, knock, knock. Maybe it's just the wind, or maybe it's her. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe to Chilling Whisperscape. There are more true horror stories waiting for you, because, after all, the scariest stories are the ones that never end. Sound effect, distant knocking, fading into silence. The next thing I remember was waking up on the hotel lobby floor. The receptionist was standing over me, shaking his head. "You're lucky," he said quietly. "Most people don't make it out of room 313. Confused and terrified, I grabbed my things and left without asking any questions. But before I walked out, I glanced back at the old painting hanging in the lobby. It was her. The woman in the black dress. This time she wasn't facing the window. She was smiling, directly at me. I never went back to that hotel, but even now, I can't escape that feeling that someone or something followed me home. Sometimes late at night I hear the same knocking. Knock, knock, knock. Maybe it's just the wind, or maybe it's her. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe to Chilling Whisperscape. There are more true horror stories waiting for you, because after all, the scariest stories are the ones that never end. Sound effect, distant knocking, fading into silence. It was supposed to be just another business trip, a quick meeting, an overnight stay, and then back to my usual life. I arrived late in the evening, tired and desperate to find a place to rest. All the decent hotels were booked, leaving me with a single option. A small rundown hotel at the edge of town. The moment I stepped inside, I felt it. The air was heavy, almost suffocating. The lobby was dimly lit, with flickering lights casting eerie shadows on the peeling wallpaper. The receptionist, a pale, expressionless man, barely looked up as he handed me the keys to room 304. As I climbed the creaky staircase, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Maybe it was exhaustion playing tricks on my mind, or maybe it was something else entirely. I turned the key, pushed the door open, and froze. The room was dark, colder than I expected, and it smelled faintly of damp wood and something metallic. I switched on the light. The room seemed normal enough, just a bed, a desk, and a small window. But somehow, it felt wrong. I tried to brush it off as paranoia and settled in, unaware that this night would change my life forever. If you're curious about what happened next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay with me till the end of this story. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. At first, I tried to ignore the uneasiness that crept through me. I locked the door, placed my bag on the desk, and sat on the bed, hoping some rest would clear my head. But the silence in the room was unnatural. It wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, like the air carried a weight of its own. Just as I leaned back, I heard it, the faintest whisper coming from the hallway. It was too quiet to make out the words, but it was there. I opened the door and looked out. Nothing. The hallway was empty, lit by a flickering bulb that made the shadows dance unnervingly. I shrugged it off and tried to relax, but then came the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps, pacing back and forth just outside my door. I froze. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. No reply. The footsteps stopped, just as suddenly as they had started. My heart was pounding as I crept closer to the door, pressing my ear against it. That's when I heard it. A soft, childlike giggle, so close it felt like it was on the other side of the door. I yanked the door open, but once again the hallway was empty. Back in the room, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The picture frame on the wall, it wasn't the same one I'd seen when I first entered the room. The frame now held a photo of a family, their faces blurred and distorted, as if the image itself was trying to hide a secret. By now, I knew something wasn't right. The uneasiness in the air, the strange sounds, and the shifting picture frame. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I decided to head downstairs to the reception desk, hoping to get some answers. The receptionist was still there, sitting unnaturally still, his pale face illuminated by the dim light of the desk lamp. "Excuse me," I started hesitantly. "Is there something unusual about room 304? His head turned slowly toward me, his eyes cold and unblinking. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. "You're the first guest to stay in that room in a long time." "What does that mean?" I pressed. But before he could answer, there was a loud crash from the back office. He jumped to his feet and disappeared through a door, leaving me alone in the eerie silence. I turned my attention to an old dusty guest register lying on the counter. Flipping through its pages, I noticed something odd. The entries stopped abruptly years ago, except for one name. Written in shaky handwriting just a few weeks prior was the name Margaret S., alongside a single word in the comments section, "Don't." Chills ran down my spine as I stepped back from the desk. I felt an overwhelming urge to return to my room, but something caught my eye. A narrow, unlit staircase leading to the basement. I don't know what possessed me, but I found myself descending those creaking stairs, one hesitant step at a time. The basement was cold, damp, and pitch black except for a single flickering bulb in the center of the room. As I stepped closer, I noticed old dust-covered furniture and piles of forgotten belongings. And then I saw it. A small, child-sized chair in the corner, its surface scratched and stained. On it sat a single item, a photo, identical to the one in my room but with the faces now eerily clear. My breath hitched as I recognized one of the faces. It was the receptionist, and he hadn't aged a day. My legs felt like lead as I backed away from the chair in the basement. The photo in my trembling hands was undeniable. It was the receptionist, standing alongside a family that looked unnervingly out of place. Their faces were too perfect, almost like they were painted. Suddenly, the flickering bulb overhead went out, plunging the room into darkness. My breathing quickened, and I felt the icy grip of fear tightening around my chest. Then I heard it, a faint whisper coming from behind me. "You shouldn't have come here." I spun around, my phone's flashlight trembling in my hand, but the beam only revealed old furniture and cobwebs. The whisper grew louder, now coming from all directions. "Leave before it's too late." The air grew colder, and I could feel a presence closing in. That's when I saw it. A shadowy figure, standing at the edge of the light, its head tilted unnaturally to one side. It didn't move, but I could feel its eyes on me, piercing through the darkness. Panic set in, and I bolted for the stairs. My footsteps echoed loudly, and it felt like the darkness itself was chasing me. As I reached the top, the door to the basement slammed shut behind me with a deafening bang. I raced back to my room, slamming the door and locking it. My chest heaved as I tried to catch my breath, but the room didn't feel safe anymore. The photo frame on the wall had changed again. This time it showed only one face, mine. Suddenly the lights flickered and the sound of footsteps began outside my door. They were slow, deliberate, and getting closer. I grabbed my phone and called for help, but the line was filled with static. Then I heard a voice, soft, almost melodic, whispering my name. "Come out. We've been waiting for you." The door handle began to rattle, and the temperature in the room plummeted. My hands were shaking as I backed into the corner, clutching a small lamp like it would protect me. The door burst open, and for a split second, I saw them. Figures cloaked in darkness, their faces twisted into grotesque smiles. They didn't move like people. Their jerky, unnatural movements were like something out of a nightmare. I screamed, but no sound came out. Everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying on the sidewalk in front of the hotel. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My head throbbed and my body felt like it had been through a battle. The hotel, it looked different in the daylight. The windows were boarded up, the walls crumbling and covered in graffiti. It didn't make sense. Just hours ago, I was inside, running for my life. I stumbled to the nearest diner and asked about the place. The waitress gave me a strange look and said, "That hotel, it's been abandoned for over 20 years. They say it's haunted. People went missing there." I didn't respond. My mind was racing, trying to piece together what had happened. As I reached into my pocket, I froze. The photo, the one from the basement, it was still there. The receptionist's face stared back at me, and beneath it, in faded handwriting, were the words, "You're next." I left the town that same day and never looked back. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the whispers, and I wonder if I ever truly left that hotel. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, or if it gave you chills, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share it with someone who loves a good scare. Stay safe out there, and think twice before checking into an unfamiliar hotel.